the last day of the protests on the weekend?
Am I in a good mood? I don't think I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you
Maybe
at
you're
the
just doing your
protest?
job. Sorry, I apologize.
Absolutely.
Were you at the protest?
Yes, I was the first day. So I was at 37 where they had masked up.
Okay.
People were arrested. I heard that I spoke to some of them as well, through to the Jubilee House where police officials had been dotted at vantage points to ensure that the protesters do not make their way into the premises. So yeah, it was quite a hectic one, but then we had to report
Do you
on
have
it.
any personal experience that you took with you from the protest?
I wasn't arrested, but I know that some of my colleague journalists were arrested. And I...
For doing what? For just doing their job?
Yes.
Interviewing people?
Yes.
And they were picked up?
Exactly.
You're just rounded up,
Yeah.
added to the shade that the police want to do and to show them a lesson.
Did you feel
know.
safe? Were you afraid? Did you feel
I
like
don't know,
you
but
could be in danger?
anytime I find myself reporting around such situations, when I'm holding my microphone, I feel so powerful. So there was a point where they were picking some of the protesters into a pickup truck, and then the guy told me to jump over
on.
and said, I'm a journalist, I'm trying to speak to them and to know the reason why you're arresting them. And it was like, oh, okay, we'll be too
He actually asked you to jump onto the truck?
Yes,
So you were
he
also
told me-
supposed to be under
You
arrest?
should allow yourself to be arrested.
That was at around the 37
Oh, you should have
military
allowed
hospital.
yourself.
I should have allowed myself.
You are part of the
Roland,
story.
what are you
He
saying?
asked you to
Not
jump
true.
onto the truck.
Yes, he did.
You should have allowed it beyond and said that I've been arrested.
A BBC cameraman with the camera.
I
The
saw
whole
that as
camera
well.
was picked up. And
Well,
so
the police
I'm
denied
sure
it.
that
They said they didn't.
they said they picked
didn't-
them up, and later when they disclosed that they were journalists, they let them go.
Yeah.
But I wondered whether the camera and the microphone was not enough evidence of their journalism at the protest. But anyway, thank you so much, Godwin.
Thank you,
Looking
man.
sharp as usual. I checked out your Instagram just now, and I think I would like to direct all our male viewers to go and check it out for style inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's his Instagram?
Godwin
At
dot
Slay King Kong.
Asidaba.
Oh, he changed it too. At
No,
Slay King Kong.
Oh, no.
At what?
It's, Godwin,
Slay King
it's always
Kong.
been Godwin.
No, I'm kidding. That's actually what I call
Bella,
it.
you got me.
Godwin, have a great today, okay? What
Thank
are you
you.
reporting on today?
Yes, so I will be traveling somewhere to work on my documentary today.
All the best, yeah?
Thank you.
You know, I know that the protests seem to have taken a lot of eyes around other related, equally important news. And the voter registration hasn't gotten the type of traction that it needed as
Yes.
well. And then, of course, Friday's race. The aftermath,
yes.
we also took our eyes off the ball. But it's also because the protests are important. And all these equally also get to give us a certain sum of the difficult times ordinary Ghanaians tend to live in.
Exactly.
I was surprised as far as the floods are concerned, because I use the motorway constantly. All those places around from the Soldako area on the motorway, and we're talking about places that get onto all those estates around East Legon, getting onto Tema, Shaiman, all those places got flooded. And it's because we've built on waterways.
And it's one of the things the protesters hinted on.
Yes.
So aside the mismanagement of the economy, one of the things they spoke about was what happens when it rains. Our waterways, our roads, our streets, how ordinary Ghanaians are struggling and suffering when there's 2 hours of rain. And incidentally, it rained on Friday for 4 hours. And we saw videos of people having to stand on top of their cars. A mother, I don't know if you saw that video, a mother who
I
was carrying
scared for the baby.
a baby was
Yeah.
walking in water which was up to, was it waist high?
Yeah. If we could
Up
pull
to
up
her
that
thigh.
video,
Yeah, if we could pull up that video. And she was carrying her baby, and I was watching this at home with my phone, and I felt, oh my goodness. You know, and after the rains, you realize, Roland and Bella, that after the rains, more people showed up for the protest.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you feel that you cannot relate to some of the things that people are talking about, and then something like the rain happens, and you're stuck in it, people are in traffic for more than 4 hours, lives, well, property, a lot of property were destroyed. More people woke up the next day and showed up for the protest, and a lot of conversations were had about, aside mismanagement of the economy, the rains, our health facilities, basic things that people need just to survive, not even to thrive, just to survive in the country, are not available to them. And I saw a young lady, she had another name, I don't remember. She was addressing the police after the protest yesterday at the tail end. And she constantly spoke to the police about their living conditions at the barracks. There was a photo which came up of the police barracks where after the rains, all of their rooms were flooded. A lot of them had to come out. And she was trying to explain to them that these are the things that we are talking about. These are the things that we are demanding, even for the Ghana police, that your own livelihood, the way you live, how much money you're paid, the homes that you live in with your children are not the best. And these are the things that the protesters are fighting for. And so her problem was that the police needed to be on the side of the protesters so that they too could benefit from the things that the protesters were demanding for. And watching it with the passion with which she spoke, I really could feel the hurt in her voice.
Unfortunately, a lot of these young police officers, and maybe the older ones, may want to join the protest. But yesterday there were a series of messages flying about of some DMs that were sent by some policemen and women, and they're saying that we want to join you, but unfortunately, if we lend our voice to this protest, we're going to be sent to some remote village somewhere to go and man the community, and we cannot afford to do that because we have families. Our babies just started, school in the little area that we're in. And so speak on our behalf and do this on our behalf, but unfortunately, we cannot lend our voice. And to a large extent, I understood where they were coming from because you see, unlike some of us who can easily just get up and speak about some of these issues, when you are within the security agency, once you speak up and you don't have, the permission from your boss and stuff, that also becomes another issue altogether. You're at risk of losing your rank, losing your job, and then you're asking yourself questions, what next? So to some extent, I sort of understood those young people who may have wanted to protest.
Bella.
And you could see, no, I'm not holding brief for the police.
Thank you.
I don't agree with what they did. I'm just saying that if you look at the faces of some of these policemen and women who were at the barricade and were manning, the border, you could tell that they were sad. They probably didn't want to be where they were, but they don't have a choice. And I wish that it will get to a point where everybody, at least even the policemen and women, can also say that, you know what, I'm sorry you're posting me to this place, but I cannot do it because I'm also not happy with the situation. I mean, it doesn't even have to rain for you to see the state of the police barracks. You drive by, even the one just around the Osu Oxford streets, the roundabout, when you're going towards Morning Star, you drive by that
police hospital.
and you ask yourself questions.
Yes.
How do people live in this state? And these people are supposed to protect us. They come on the streets and they ask you for 5 cedis. Because they're probably not. I mean, that's even another angle to the conversation altogether, because corruption should not be condoned whichever way. But you look at their living conditions and you wonder, how is this person supposed to be in the right frame of mind to protect me when he sees that you're living better and he is protecting the country and living in such a situation? It's really sad. And I put up a tweet, I think the day before the protest started, because I happen to have been in a country that came to understudy us after they gained their independence. And if you see the level of development, this is Singapore.
Oh, okay.
If you see the level of development, the level of discipline, listen, there's a law that says you cannot even buy alcohol between 10:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. If you go to any store, they will sack you if you want to buy the alcohol because they'll tell you, I'm sorry, we're not selling. The laws work. They've ensured that it's not just about the law, but they've brought some level of development. You get there and you start feeling sorry for yourself, that how is it that these countries that we gained independence before are so developed and we're sitting here and doing absolutely nothing?
What do you think is lacking?
We're just not ready. Honestly, leadership, corruption, I don't think they're ready because they're making all the money into their pockets and taking care of themselves and their immediate family and forgetting everybody else. But if you keep doing that, we'll never make any progress. It's really heartbreaking. It is. And I saw the toll booth as well, and I'll just talk about that briefly so we can take a break. So this is where you go to the toll booth and you're supposed to just show your card and go through. And the roads there are world class. And you come back to your country. This is like a whole building that's been put up for
I
the
saw
toll
your
booth.
video
You
online.
come back to your country, and we're even having conversations about converting toll booths into
Toilets.
public toilets and stuff. And you wonder what's going on. But anyway, I guess we have to take a break at this
No,
point.
we have to go through what we have
what
this
we're doing
morning.
today.
So,
Yeah.
so for our this morning conversation, we're asking you some of the lessons we can get or perhaps extract from this Occupy Julobi House. What lessons we can. And we know that this will herald or is a start of many other protests, it looks like, which necessarily doesn't need large numbers to start with. Because usually Ghanaians are used to getting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people on the street for the naysayers to make a decision whether a protest was successful. All right. And this one also, I think the good thing is, wasn't led by any political force or entity. So that's a good thing. So we'll be asking you about this. And of course, we'll have Johnny's Bite. And then we'll come to the main discussions on big issues and other main discussions related to this with Eduji Tamaklo, Andrew Kofi Ejapamesa. And there's a particular issue among all the protests also happening in the oil sector, in which we have a private oil refinery company that also seemed to be straying into the other value chain of transporting. So the company has an oil refinery. They've imported large consignment of fleet of trucks and will be transporting. What happens to the other transporters who transport oil to either the bulk storage company or to the OMCs? What happens to them? And this, we're having the oil transporters raising concerns about this. So we'll look at this as well. And of course, we'll talk about Ghana's most beautiful. Yeah, I came on Friday, but watching the show myself, and sometimes it's sad to have all these evictions, but what can we do?
Two of our ladies went home yesterday, unfortunately. Always, evictions make me sad. But yesterday's show was very colorful as the ladies took us down memory lane. They talked about our independence and how many of the great Ghanaians from the various parts of the country contributed to our fight for independence. But also, we're going to have another conversation on the Occupy Julobi House protest. We're going to be joined by Solomon Wise, the media liaison of Democracy Hub. We're also going to be joined by a gentleman who issued a statement yesterday about the protest on behalf of the NPP youth. The National Youth Organizer, Salam Mustafa, will join us. And media broadcast journalist Olele Salvador will also join us. And we'll hear from young people about the protest. What do you make of it? Was it successful? Did the protesters air your grievances? Do you feel that it was necessary? The National Youth Organizer of the NPP thinks that it was not necessary. And according to the letter that he wrote, he did not see the salient points that the protesters were trying to put across. And the only thing he saw was, in his words, the usual rhetoric of fix the motorway, fix the roads, and other things that are born of this political leanings. And so we'll have that conversation. Gladly, he's going to join us to have it. We'll also talk to some of our, we're talking about TV3 Mentor. So it's back. If you've been following the conversations and the videos online, it's going pretty well, and we'll bring you more conversations on it. When we come back, we'll have our Good Morning segment. Stay tuned. This is TV3 New Day.
You're welcome back, and this is TV3 New Day. It's good to have you join us. Remember, the hashtag is TV3 New Day. For this morning, we're asking you, what is your take-home from the 3-day protest? Occupy Julobi House is what it was called. And of course, we're hearing from some of the protesters who are saying they're extending it to December when all the diasporans come into town, so they can really relay the information to them to let them understand the real state of the country. But at the moment, at least the 3-day protest has been completed, and we're asking you, what is your take home from this? Are you inspired to join the next one if you couldn't join this one? And for you, what really was that salient point from all that happened during the 3 days? The NPP has released a statement, and like Now was saying, point number 3, this is what they said. I tried so hard in the 3 days of the protest to take home the most salient reason and demand for the protest, but nothing concrete except for the usual rhetoric of fix the road, motorway, cost of living, and other tangentials which borders on politics. And then they go further to itemize what they say they have done to make life better for Ghanaians. They talk about Agenda 111. We still do not have one complete hospital from Agenda 111. You remember when the president had said, during the launch that it was going to be done within 18 months. Comes back later, extends the time, and then later says, when he was addressing the nation, that unfortunately that was a promise that was too big for them to achieve. But he hopes that by the end of his tenure, they're going to ensure that Agenda 111 would be completed. Some 88 hospitals were told had started already. But even up to this point, what is the update on that? MPP says, well, these are some of the things they've done, from free SHS to making sure that there's an ambulance in every constituency, even though you have to make sure you have a bed at the hospital before the ambulance picks you up, or you'd have to pay for fuel, like that man who unfortunately lost his wife in the central region. These are real life situations. These are the reasons why people are on the streets protesting for a better life, for their taxes to be used in a way that makes their life even better for them. And well, this is a statement that the MPP National Youth Wing has released. What do you make of that as well? Let us know. The numbers are on your screens. Please call us. We would love to hear from you. Maybe while we wait for our callers, we'll just go through some of the points that the MPP put out, if that's okay. And so if we can just project it. It says that I'm a patriot of this great country. Maybe we can start from 4, because I've already read point 3. I'm a patriot of this great country and also seek what's best for us all. We have all been affected by hardships brought upon us due to the economic crisis as we've been through since 2021. It's imperative to point to the ravaging consequences of COVID-19. Well, we have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. What's your name, sir?
My name is Prince. I'm calling from Tamale.
Prince. Well, I'm guessing that you were not able to join physically in the protest?
Yes, I couldn't come. At first, the first day, the police scared everybody. So we from Tamale, we were prepared with a bus, but we don't know the protest will come on again. But we say kudos to our brothers, concerned Ghanaian youth that were able to make the protest come true for their voice to be heard. Maybe the government to downplay on it, the government to try to overlook what we are raising. But I think there are concerns that they have to address for us all to have a good living standard in the country. Because when you see what is going on and even the manipulation of the police, the EC and other things, I think the government is not listening to anybody, which is very bad. Because Nanado coming in to take power, we don't expect this kind of things. But as they are happening, I think he has disappointed Ghanaian youth, and we are just praying that God should see us through, because I think politicians now in Ghana cannot do anything for us. It's only God that will see Ghana through and the Ghana youth through. Thank you, Tiri, for all the things you are doing. Thank you for allowing us, for our voice to be heard.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Are you still there, Prince? I just wanted to ask you something briefly. Are you still there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we lost
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, so
Prince.
quick one. I mean, there are some people who have said that maybe Ghanaians should also take a part of the blame because we have voted for these parties to take over constantly in the last 32 years or so. We know what they're capable of and not capable of. And yet, when it's time to vote, we still go and give them, our votes. And that is why we find ourselves where we are today. What do you say to that?
Yes, the influence of politicians on the ground. You see now, all of us are facing it. The hardship is there. Even North. When you think North, we know that North is a food producing hub. So food issues in the North are not supposed to be so difficult and expensive. But now, when you come to the North, to buy even a bowl of beans, it's not easy. But, politicians have a way of influencing people to follow them. So me, I've made up my mind long time not to vote for anybody because I always hustle to get something on my table.
Okay.
So it's a high time that all of us wake up. The youth must be enlightened that these politicians cannot do anything. Let's face the reality.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's my take on it.
Thank you, Prince, for joining us. Apologies if you've been on the line waiting to speak as well.
Well, certainly. I have this one from, you were taking us through you want to continue?
Well, yes, I mean, if there's time, it says that, well, of course, they're still quoting COVID-19 and everything else that has happened.
Niger is not there.
Niger is not there, unfortunately.
No Gabon?
No, funny enough, no Gabon. But anyway, let's jump to point 8, if it's possible.
Yeah,
Maybe we can the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government has made the biggest investment in our educational sector.
Fantastic.
10 state-of-the-art STEM schools have been built. Several blocks of classrooms and dormitories in all other existing SHS and colleges of education have received monumental infrastructural projects. Free TVET and SHS policies have set in. We have a caller as well. Now, Alexander, hi. Alexander, good morning. Well, I think there's a challenge with the phone lines. Alexander, can you hear us? Hello, good morning. we've lost Alexander. But they also talk about other things aside the free SHS. So go to point. Well, Alexander is on. Hello.
I'm still online.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Alexander. What is your highlight of the free protest?
I've got my heart out for all the protesters. And I think that this nation, the politicians are taking us for granted. That's simply what one I can say. Look, some of us from where we come, I come from the northern part of the country. And when I was born, till today, we don't even have DHS. The shortest distance from my village is about 9 kilometers.
What's your village called?
The village is Jang in the Savannah region.
Okay.
Practically, Sola Tuna Kalbati State.
And you don't have a junior high school in your village?
There is no junior high school in that community. And the shortest distance to that community is 9 kilometers, which is Soma. If you are done with primary 6 and you do not have any relative to stay with in Soma, or you don't have your father is unable to get you a bicycle, phonics bicycle, not any proper bicycle, right to that community, you are done with your PhD. I saw a young lady who is about the age of my daughter that she was so much on her, talking seriously. And this country, look, I want to say that the leadership is a reflection of you. So, hello?
We can hear you.
Please
Carry
go
on.
ahead.
Please land.
Yes. So the leadership is the reflection of us. Until we change this issue of tribalism, religion, and all those nonsense, we aren't going anywhere. And as a nation, it is high time we make the politicians know that the country do not belong to them alone.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for
having me.
speaking to us.
Great.
And yet in the statements, they say that they have built dormitories, STEM institutes, etc. This is a community that hasn't had a junior high school for God knows how
In
long.
2023.
Let's go to Johnny's Bites. We'll continue the rest of the show.